Hey everyone, it's James Vagley here, and welcome to another episode of the MBA podcast. And it's episode 213. And today we're talking about Flow Maximizer. It's one of my favorite subjects. Flow Maximizer, it's about stop losing deals, doing work, and not getting paid. That's not cool in my world, right? What we want to do is actually solve for conversions and client experience. And we're going to talk about how to do that in this episode. So, every broker listening to this, every broker not listening to this, frankly, is losing deals, is losing money and profit guaranteed. I can guarantee every single person listening to this is losing deals, money and profit guaranteed. And I know because you know, right? Leads and clients are dropping off. I see this happen in almost every mortgage business we work with. Leads and clients are dropping off. They're getting stuck. They're stalled. They're going cold within the loan process, whether they're a prospect or someone that you've started to work with, stalled, stuck, dropping off, and all of those sorts of things. Essentially, what's happening is you're doing all this work and not getting paid. And we don't want that, right? And the problem, or the bigger problem, I mean, what's a bigger problem than not getting paid for all this work? But the bigger problem is actually that brokers don't even realize this is happening. They could have poor conversions, but they think that's normal, or they don't realize it's even happening. Often we see brokers with a lot of approval in principles, AIPs, they don't go anywhere, or they've got to be redone, a whole bunch of rework, and they think that's normal to have to do that. Or they lose deals at the 11th hour because of bank or lender retention teams, again, thinking that's normal. It's not normal. It's not good to be doing all this work and having deals drop off or be dropped off because of lender retention teams and all those things. Also, there's a lot of brokers that are actually doing things proactively, thinking they're improving their business and process, but it's actually hurting things and making things worse. So I want to share some things in this episode to help you fix that and help you maximize your flow in your business. Now, quick sort of insight. I've been doing this a long time. I've been in mortgage broking business close to 20 years, and I used to be hopeless at sales, hopeless. And I followed the industry. I followed the norm. I followed what everybody else was doing. And then I realized that I actually needed to do the exact opposite to get results. And kind of that's what I'm going to talk about for the rest of this episode, is the fact that most brokers would be better off doing the opposite to what everybody else is doing. And that's probably the biggest insight to start with, is that most people, you included, our listeners, most people learn from other people who are wrong. Now, not wrong because, the well-meaning, not well-meaning, like there's a lot of great people in our industry, but most brokers are learning from people that are wrong, and they're listening to these people because they're in a position of perceived expertise. What does that mean, perceived expertise? Well, because they're a trainer, because they're a BDM, because they're in a position of authority in the industry. That doesn't mean they actually know what they're talking about. That doesn't mean the strategies that they're sharing are correct for you, outdated. You don't know. And most brokers are learning from other people that are sharing incorrect information. So what we want to talk about today is essentially the solution to flow maximization. We have a training for this inside our member resource center, but I want to share what I call the 12 workflow sins. And we're going to go through those 12 in brief. And of course, the full training for this is, available to our members. Now, before I go through the 12, at a very high level, the big problem that I see is that brokers are focusing on themselves, and they're focusing on writing loans, and they're not focusing on the client. So what's actually happening is a lot of brokers are making really poor assumptions and poor decisions that negatively affect their workflow and client experience. Now, they're doing this often without realizing it. Again, they're doing it because they're listening to other people, thinking they're installing good ideas that they're learning from others that actually aren't good ideas. So that's the problem. We're focused, mostly brokers, on themselves and writing loans, not the client. That's the biggest issue that we see. And the solution, at least the quick version to that, is focus on the client experience, right? If you do that, you will fix conversions. If you focus on yourself and technology and simplifying and systems and blah, 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 you'll most likely make things worse. So this will make more sense when I go through the 12 workflow sins. Okay, so we'll do that now. All right, there's 12 of them. I'm gonna have to go through them pretty quickly. Number one, overusing technology and team. A lot of brokers are using technology when they shouldn't be. If you overuse technology, you will annoy your clients. There are times when you should use technology and automations and emails and all that amazing stuff we have in CRMs and workflow platforms. And there's other times we should actually just help our clients, and we should go in there one-on-one and do a meeting and help them, right? So overusing technology is probably one of the biggest problems I find within workflows, overusing it. Big problem. Second one of the 12 workflow sins is wrong communication channels. So there's ways to communicate with your clients, right? And most brokers are still acting like it's 2000 or 1999, right? However the song goes. They're just using email, they're using the phone. And that's fine depending on your type of client, but what if your clients aren't checking emails? Nobody answers the phone anymore. There are other platforms, there are other ways of communicating with your clients to actually get a better result. And a lot of brokers aren't thinking about the client experience, they're just thinking about themselves and the fact that they use the phone and email, etc. That's number two. Number three, too long to respond or remind. So if you're taking too long to respond to an inquiry or too long to remind someone to move between the stages, you're going to lose them. They'll drop off, they'll stall, they'll go to another broker, you'll lose them. So taking too long to respond or remind. Now that's obviously a symptom of being overworked and not understanding capacity and time management in your business. Fourth, no pain, no urgency, no why. So if you've ever found that clients are dropping off, they're stalling, they're not getting the docs back, they're not coming through the process, you probably will find that you haven't built enough pain or urgency or a reason why they should refinance and save money. You think it's logical that they should do it. They don't. Their life has gotten in the way. They're just busy and other things have become more important. And that's your fault for not bringing up enough pain and urgency and why they actually need to do the work. So that's number four. Five, not winning the business before helping. I mean, a lot of brokers are doing so much work and not getting paid, or they're doing all this work and then the client's just racing off and going to work with another broker or the bank or lender directly. If you're not winning the business before actually helping someone, you're doing yourself a disservice because you're doing all this work for no money, and you're doing your client a disservice as well. You need to win the business, as in win that client on using you before you actually start to do any of the work. This is one of the biggest problems with the mortgage industry in general, is that most mortgage brokers start helping people without qualifying, without winning the business, and doing all this work hoping that they'll get paid. That's essentially how the industry works. We do all this work and we hope to get paid. It doesn't actually have to be like that at all if you win the business properly from day one. Okay, number six, making things complex or confusing. I've seen a lot of mortgage broker workflows where it's very complicated and confusing. Sending out fact finds, sending out pieces of technology and docs and 45-point checklist of what you're going to need to get back to me, sign this, do that. If you're making it hard for your client or your prospect, they're not going to do the work and they're going to stall and they're going to get stuck and they're going to drop off. So if you make things hard for them, don't expect them to keep working with you. The next one, not setting expectations or deadlines. Again, this is kind of like no pain, no urgency, but if you don't set an expectation with a client and give them a due date to do something, life will get in the way. They'll forget. You've got to hold your clients and prospects to a higher standard, give them deadlines, set expectations about what they need to do and why, and watch your conversions and your flow become much more appropriately fast and efficient. Next, not triaging hard enough up front. So triage is a term that we use in our business for essentially qualifying clients or prospects before you do any work. So if you're not triaging hard enough, you're likely to do a ton of work with people that have no intent in actually working with you. And that's one of the big things brokers do. They're spending a lot of time working with people that they should have pre-qualified out sooner. So not triaging hard enough. People that were never going to do anything, people that were just thinking maybe, people that weren't quite ready yet, but you go and do an approval anyway. All sorts of things like that. Next, not driving the transaction and people. It's up to you, obviously. Yes, there's the client, there's the lender. You're kind of stuck in the middle, but it's really up to you as the broker to drive the transaction. You're the person that sits in the driver's seat between the lender and the client to get the outcome. Don't rely on the client, don't rely on the lender. You need to keep driving that transaction and the people and all the parties involved to get an outcome as fast as possible. And again, most brokers are fairly passive with that. Next, not charging fees before doing the work. Well, I've seen this happen time and time again. If you don't charge people, they'll think it's free. They'll treat you like it's free. The clients that we have that charge fees, the drop-off in people saying no to the fee is almost none, right? Charging fees is one of the easiest things you can do to, number one, make more money. Number two, secure a client before doing the work so that you don't do all this work for nothing. It's such an easy thing to do if brokers just knew how to do it. Charge fees before doing any work. That's going to help you maximize the flow and the conversions at every step. Two more. One is working with incomplete information. So a lot of brokers do start to run deals and scenarios on haphazard or incomplete information. Like, don't spend any time doing anything for a client until you've got all the information. It's just going to result in rework when you find something else out later. Get the information you need to do the work properly at the start. So working with incomplete information is a no-no. And then the last one is what we call internal delays or errors. So essentially, if the client is stalling in the process because of internal delays or errors, well, that's the fault of your business, right? Maybe because you've gone over capacity and you didn't have robust systems and enough team to get those deals done within a reasonable amount of time. So those clients have gone elsewhere and you've lost them. Or if you're making too many errors within the loan process, because again, you're overworked and you're stressed and your team's not trained up enough, you don't have good enough systems, then you're going to make errors and you'll have to do rework. Clients, going to get stuck and stalled and dropped off. So there's so many different reasons why flow can be restricted in a mortgage business. And flow is probably the most important thing because, number one, this is an efficiency game, it's a volume game. And if we're not getting paid for the work we're doing, we're just wasting resources. You could be wasting your time and your team's time and not even really knowing it. So maximizing flow is probably one of the fastest things you can do to become more efficient and make more money as a mortgage business. We see this especially in businesses that are larger and that are doing higher volumes. There's more and more problems and more opportunities, often the larger you get. So as a recap, the main problem, as I said at the start, is that brokers are focusing on themselves and writing loans and not the client experience. Yes, to help the client, we need to write a loan. We need to do a refi. We need to do an approval or a restructure, whatever it happens to be. We need to do strategic work to help our client. But we can't forget that the client has a particular experience that they're going through while you're doing the work you need to do. And the magic is in understanding and managing and perfecting the client experience while actually delivering the work as well. That's what's going to give you maximum flow. It's going to give you maximum profits, and it's going to give you the best outcome for the client, much happier clients, much happier and more efficient businesses as well. So focus on the client experience and you'll be golden. They're the 12 workflow sins. If you want the full version of this training, that's inside our members portal for the clients that we work with one-on-one. So you can always knock on our door and have a conversation with us about becoming a client. But look, when you get this right, as I said, your efficiency, your conversions, your happy clients, your profit skyrockets. And that's what we want for you. So hopefully you've enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to seeing you next week for another episode. So until then, stay cool, have yourself a good week. Bye for now.